Hey everybody, this is Mike Sparks with yet another Sparklepony Roundup. I don't have an overarching topic this week. I'm just going to hit some little bits and blurbs kind of in the rumor mill and more on the actual confirmed mill. Is that a thing? Anyway, we're going to talk a lot about 5.4 and let's just get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to talk about is the virtual realms feature that we have been hearing so much about. Now, they've changed the name. They're now referring to them as connected realms. I don't know why they needed to change that, but whatever. Now, what we found out is that will not actually be launching with 5.4. It looks like it's actually going to be coming a little after, like possibly in a hotfix. We still have no word on the in-game store, whether that's actually coming to the US EU servers. It's definitely coming out in Asia. They're testing it right now on the PTR, just to make sure all of the little things that you can buy work. Pretty sure they're not charging people. I'm not actually on the PTR, by the way. I'm still actively raiding, so I just really don't have the time to go play with all the new toys. I got some people that are doing it for me. I don't always get all the info. Anyway, we also found out that 5.4 is not going to be bringing us epic gems. Sorry for those of you that were looking forward to that, kind of like we got in Dragon Soul, but it looks like they're looking for a better delivery system than what we had in Dragon Soul. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember back in those days, say it like it was that long ago, but basically you got a moat of darkness, or whatever they called it, for defeating a boss, and then when you got a lull in your raid time, or when you were done raiding for the day, you could go down to the bottom of the Worm Rest Temple. I'm awake. You could go down to the bottom of the Worm Rest Temple, and there was a quartermaster there that would trade your motes in for an item that would give you a random epic gem. In my experience, 9 times out of 10, that gem was completely worthless. And I think Blizzard realized that when they saw how many unsold epic gems were just sitting on the auction house towards the end of DS. So I think they're looking to find a system that's a little less wasteful. A little less wasteful. Vengeance is getting a slight nerf. I say slight. Tanks probably disagree. It's going to go from stacking to 1.8% of damage taken to 1.5% of damage taken, and it's also no longer going to stack in AoE effects. Honestly, I don't really see a big problem with this. I know some tanks are QQing right now that their DPS is going to go down, but really, where did it go that high in the first place aside from a fight like Horadon? Now, once again, they are testing all of the fights right now on the PTR for Siege of Orgrimmar. We haven't seen all of them yet, so there may end up being another Horadon-style fight in there with a lot of ads, but overall, I really don't think this is going to be a major adjustment to gameplay. Tank DPS, with the exception of a few fights that either were very ad-heavy or had specific damage boosts to them, has always kind of been on the lower end of your damage meter. So this really doesn't seem like it's going to be any sort of a game changer. In fact, I'm not even really sure quite why they're doing it, other than maybe they're tired of seeing crazy 200k DPS out of Death Knight and Warrior tanks on, well, fights like Horadon, or the packs before Iron Con, however you say that. MMO Champion has data mined up some BOA weapons that look like they're coming from the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. Now, we don't know that for sure. There could be some side event that we haven't heard about yet that they come from. But they all have Hellscream in the title, so they're definitely some way connected to the raid. Now, they all appear to be about an idle level of 574 right now. Blizzard has gone on record saying that that may change as they keep testing things and before it comes to actual launch. But that's going to be really nice for all of you that, like me, end up developing Alt-itis at the end of an expansion and have to level all the things. So that'll be something to nicely shortcut an alt right into at least the Throne of Thunder raids, I would think. And that's really all we know about those so far. Spoilers. Massive potential spoilers. For anybody that's been paying attention to all of the data mining, especially from Adria Craft, who I should probably link in this video description. Videos are always great when it comes to previews of upcoming content. We have found an environment, they have found an environment that shows a destroyed Stormwind Harbor in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. A lot of players are getting upset about this, and I think they need to calm down for a second. And I'm going to go into why. Now, we don't know if this is even going to be a thing. Remember, this is an encounter that involves at least the remnants of an old god. And we've seen plenty of instances in the past where we've had fights involving old gods or their minions that send players into delusions. So it's possible this may be a phase where we fight some sort of figment of Garrosh. It's also possible that it actually happens, and at least in the instance, Stormwind Harbor gets blown up. But that doesn't mean that it's going to actually happen in the actual world. I mean, this is something very easily glossed over, as in this happened at this point in the storyline, and then when you jump out of the raid, it's rebuilt or whatever. We've had plenty of instances in the past that changed landscapes. Dragon Soul instantly comes to mind. I mean, we don't have giant dead old god minion corpses outside of Wormrest Temple in the real world. Clearly, in canon, that reverted at some point, and so they just never bothered to actually change the actual environment outside. So don't get too upset about that. I'm pretty sure it is only going to be in the instance. It may not even be canon in the instance. And if it is, I mean, the way I see it, the Alliance has been complaining about them not really being involved in the story that well. I say the Alliance as if I'm a solid Horde player. I do have an Alliance Shaman. She is 90. She's ready for Throne of Thunder. She just haven't really been taken there yet. That being said, I've seen a lot of Alliance players complaining that they feel left out of the story in Mists of Pandaria. And there is actually quite a lot of Alliance story going on. There's many, many things happening with Anduin Wynn in this expansion. So just as much as this expansion has been a tale of the fall of Garrosh, it's also, if you pay attention, the story of the rise of Anduin. Now, I don't know what the payoff for that's going to be. That's probably going to come in a future expansion, much like the rise of Garrosh took multiple expansions to get through. I mean, we saw him as the whiny little brat in Burning Crusade, and then in Wrath suddenly he was this big tough guy that, didn't listen to Sourfang and was a total jerk to everybody. And then in Cataclysm, a lot of bad storytelling happened. It started to look like Garrosh wasn't going to be that bad of a guy, and then towards the end of the expansion it turned out that, yeah, he really was that bad of a guy, and now we're going to deal with him. Now, Anduin got some similar character development. He started out as a little guy that was just kind of there throughout the first 3 expansions. And then in Cataclysm, he got an age up, and he was involved in the final quest line when you go into, what's the zone called? When you go into Twilight Highlands, he ran along and investigated with you, and that was kind of cool because, he finally got involved with the player a little bit, and now he's heavily involved everywhere. He is all over Pandaria, and we're going to see some payoff to this. So, Alliance players, be patient. I know we're in the middle of a Horde-centric arc, but you are still getting your story, and your story is going to end up coming into the spotlight again. You have to remember, there are 2 sides and only so many writers, so there are occasionally going to be some imbalances. I don't feel that there's a bias towards either faction. I think Blizzard has done really well in clarifying that on many occasions. I mean, just the simple fact that both sides have Shaman and Paladin now is a testament to that, because the game was getting broken in vanilla due to the imbalances between Shaman and Paladins. Sorry, tried to slow down there a little bit. But overall, I don't feel that there's a bias. I don't feel that there has ever been a bias. And anybody that feels that way, just take a few steps away. Remember, they only have so much in resources. And honestly, I feel like a lot of players just kind of don't pay attention to anything when they're questing. I know a lot of players don't even bother to quest anymore, so you're missing a lot of the story when you do that. You can't complain about an imbalance when you're not even really seeing what's going on. So Mists really encouraged everybody to go out into the world, and there was a reason for that. I hope everybody did that, and I'm kind of rambling here, so I'm going to cut that off. And I apologize to anybody that I offend with that, because I know a lot of people do what, well, for example, my roommate does it. First time through, he does the quests, and he goes and he sees everything new, and then for his alts, he just levels up through the dungeons. And that's fine. That's fine. As long as you're actually paying attention to what's going on enough to see that there is story on both sides. That's all I ask. And getting back to the original topic, once again, if you do feel like you've been left out this expansion, the environment that they have found is clearly a boss platform. So how cool would it be if the final phase of the Garrosh fight, the end of his reign of terror, happens in Stormwind? Not doing anything for you? This is actually hurting a little bit. Like, in my eyes. Okay, enough of that. But yeah, how more included could you be if the fight takes place right on your home turf? I think Blizzard is doing a decent job of trying to balance out everything here, and I'm usually not one to really boost what Blizzard is doing. I mean, obviously, I can't say everything they're doing is wrong and stupid, but if you've watched previous episodes of the show, I've questioned some of their decisions many times, and this is just not one of them that I feel in any way is a bad choice. I think it's going to play out well, so just stay tuned and see how it's doing. On that note, I think that's actually going to wrap this episode up. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below, or you can reach me at either twitter.com/ponyzord or ponyzord.tumblr.com. I've got some LFRs to go run, and I actually think I'm going to start putting the show back on Tuesdays. Seems like that is a better day for this. Means I've got to prep it a little earlier, but I actually kind of... I've noticed a dive in my activity, so stay tuned for that. You might want to subscribe. I've been avoiding asking people to subscribe because I've always thought it was kind of like needy, but with the schedule changes coming up, I do advise that you hit that little button up above. And, well, that's all for now. I'll see you later.